Blood dripped onto the training mat, and the entire hall went silent. Danny Reeves, 16 years old, touched his split lip and looked at the red on his fingers. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply stood back up and faced the 7-foot Krellian instructor who had just struck him across the face. Drill Master Vaughn's scaled hand still hung in the air. His yellow eyes showed no regret. Around them, 40 cadets from 12 different species stood frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Pathetic, Vaughn growled. 5 times I showed you the block. 5 times you failed. Perhaps pain will teach you what words cannot. Danny wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. His voice came out steady. I understand, Drill Master. This answer seemed to anger Vaughn more than tears would have. The Krellian's neck fins flared with frustration. He wanted fear. He wanted submission. Instead, this human child looked at him with eyes that held something cold and patient. Return to formation, Vaughn ordered. We continue. But they would not continue. Not today. A small device on Danny's wrist had already done its work. The moment Vaughn's blow landed hard enough to draw blood, the emergency beacon activated automatically. Standard safety protocol for all human cadets training off-world. The signal traveled through the station's communication array, bounced across 3 relay points, and reached 2 destinations almost simultaneously. The first was Colonel Sandra Reeves, Danny's mother, currently stationed on the diplomatic vessel Harmony, just 4 hours away. She received the alert during a routine meeting with alien ambassadors. Her face went pale. She excused herself immediately. The second destination was much farther. Earth, Montana. A small farm where wheat grew golden under summer sun and an old man lived alone with his memories. William Reeves, 73 years old, was fixing a fence when his personal communicator buzzed with a priority alert. He pulled off his work gloves and read the message. His grandson, injured. Galactic Combat Academy, Station Meridian. His hands began to shake. Not from age. Not from weakness. From something else entirely. Bill walked slowly back to his farmhouse. Inside, he passed photographs on the wall. His wife, dead now 10 years. His daughter Sandra in her military uniform. His grandson Danny as a baby. Then as a child. Then as the young man he had become. He reached his bedroom and opened a closet he had not touched in 4 decades. Inside hung a uniform. Old but perfectly preserved. Admiral stars still pinned to the collar. Below the uniform sat a locked box. Bill entered a code he had never forgotten. The box opened to reveal medals, commendations, and a single photograph of a young man standing amid ruins, fire burning behind him, survivors clinging to his legs. Bill stared at that photograph for a long time. Then he made a call. Admiral Chun, he said when the connection established. It's Bill Reeves. Silence on the other end. Then a voice, older now but still sharp. Bill? My God. It's been 20 years. What's wrong? Someone hurt my grandson. I need transport to Station Meridian. Another pause. Longer this time. Bill, are you sure? You know what happens if you go back out there. Your name still carries weight. The kind of weight that attracts trouble. That's exactly why I'm going. The Dominari, I know. They never forgot what you did. They never forgave. Good. Neither did I. Admiral Chun sighed heavily through the communicator. I'll have a ship at the Montana spaceport in 3 hours. Bill, try not to start a war. I'm just a grandfather visiting his grandson. Nothing more. They both knew that was a lie. 3 hours later, Bill Reeves boarded a sleek transport vessel. He wore civilian clothes. Simple pants, simple shirt. He looked like what he was. An old man. A farmer. Someone's grandfather. But as the ship rose through Earth's atmosphere and jumped to faster-than-light speed, Bill allowed himself to remember. The Harvest War. The camps. The things he had seen. The things he had done in response. The galaxy had given him a name back then. The Dominari, the alien empire that had tried to enslave human colonies, had called him the Butcher of 7 Moons. They meant it as a curse. Humans had adopted it as a badge of honor. After the war, the Galactic Council had sealed his records, buried his name, convinced him to retire and disappear. For the sake of peace, they said. For stability. Bill had agreed. He was tired. He wanted to grow wheat and watch his grandchildren grow up. He wanted to forget, but now someone had touched his family. The journey to Station Meridian took 11 hours. Bill slept for some of it, dreaming of fire and screaming and the faces of children he had carried to safety 40 years ago. When he woke, The station hung before him. Massive, gleaming. The Galactic Combat Academy's pride. Bill straightened his shirt and walked toward the airlock. Somewhere on that station, a Krellian drill master was going about his day, perhaps proud of how he had disciplined a lazy human student. He had no idea what was coming. Nobody did. An old man was walking through the corridors now. Just a grandfather looking for his grandson. Nothing threatening about him at all. Unless you knew the name William Reeves. Unless you knew what that name meant. And very soon, everyone on Station Meridian would remember. Commandant Threx had ruled the Galactic Combat Academy for 30 years. In that time, he had faced rebellions, political scandals, and 3 assassination attempts. Nothing had ever made his mandibles click with genuine terror. Until today, the Velthary insectoid sat in his office, reading a file that should have stayed buried forever. His aide stood nearby, trembling. "You are certain?" Threx asked. "This is the same family." "Yes, Commandant. The boy's name is Danny Reeves. His mother is Colonel Sandra Reeves of the Human Diplomatic Corps. And his grandfather?" The aide swallowed hard. "His grandfather is William Reeves." Threx closed the file. His compound eyes reflected the data that had just destroyed his peaceful morning. "The Butcher of 7 Moons is coming here. To my station. Because one of my instructors struck his grandchild. Drill Master Vaughn claims it was necessary discipline. Vaughn is a fool." Threx stood abruptly. "Where is the human boy now?" "Medical quarters. Minor injuries only. His mother arrives in 2 hours." "And the grandfather?" "Already docked. He entered the station 7 minutes ago." Threx felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Real fear. Find him. Intercept him before he reaches Vaughn. And pray to whatever gods you worship that he is truly retired. At that same moment, Bill Reeves was walking through the Academy's main corridor. He moved slowly, favoring his left leg where an old injury still ached. Cadets and instructors passed him without a second glance. Just an old human. Nothing special. But the older aliens, the ones who had lived through the Harvest War, stopped and stared. They recognized that face. Even aged. Even softened by time. They knew those eyes. Whispers began to spread. Bill ignored them all. He had one destination. His grandson. A large-scaled figure stepped into his path. Vaughn. The Krellian instructor towered over Bill, his yellow eyes dismissive. "Civilians are not permitted in this section. Human. Return to the visitor area." Bill looked up at him calmly. "I'm here to see my grandson, Danny Reeves. The boy is in medical quarters. Family visits are scheduled for." "I wasn't asking for a schedule." Bill's voice remained pleasant, almost friendly. "I was telling you where I'm going." Vaughn's neck fins rose with anger. This tiny old creature dared to speak to him this way. He leaned down, putting his face close to Bill's. "Listen carefully, human. I am Drill Master Vaughn. I train warriors. I do not take orders from fragile old men who should be home waiting to die. Now turn around, and you're the one who hit my grandson." The words were soft, simple, but something in them made Vaughn pause. The boy required discipline. He was weak, slow, pathetic, like all humans. Bill nodded slowly. "I see. And you thought hitting a child would make him stronger? It is our way. The strong survive. The weak learn or suffer." Interesting philosophy. Bill smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "Let me share mine. You touched my family. That was a mistake. The only question now is how big a mistake it will become." Before Vaughn could respond, Commandant Threx arrived with 6 security officers. The insectoid pushed between them, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Admiral Reeves, welcome to Station Meridian. I apologize for any confusion. Please, let me escort you to your grandson personally." Vaughn's yellow eyes went wide. "Admiral, retired," Bill said mildly. "Just a civilian now." Threx made a sound that might have been bitter laughter. "Of course, just a civilian. Drill Master Vaughn, you are dismissed. Report to my office in 1 hour." Vaughn looked between the old human and his commandant. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. "Commandant, I don't understand. Who is this man?" Threx turned all his compound eyes toward Vaughn with an expression of absolute contempt. This man liberated 6 human colony worlds during the Harvest War. This man walked into Dominari prison camps alone and walked out carrying survivors. This man killed so many Dominari soldiers that they gave him a name in their own language. A name that their children still whisper in nightmares. He paused. "And you struck his grandson because the boy was too slow at blocking. The color drained from Vaughn's scales. Bill patted the Krellian's arm gently. Don't worry. I'm retired now. I'm sure this will all work out peacefully. He turned to Threx. Now, about my grandson? As they walked away, Vaughn stood frozen in the corridor. His mind raced. The old man's smile haunted him. Those eyes. Patient. Cold. Waiting that he had made an enemy today. An enemy that empires had feared. And suddenly, Vaughn realized he needed friends. Powerful friends. Friends who might also want William Reeves dead. He pulled out his communicator and opened a channel that had been dormant for years. A channel to Dominari space. This is Drill Master Vaughn of Station Meridian. I have information about a human war criminal. One you have been hunting for 40 years. He is here. Alone. Old. Far from human military protection. The response came quickly. A voice filled with hunger and hate. Tell us everything. Vaughn smiled. Let the old human threaten him. Soon. Very soon. The Butcher of Seven Moons would face justice. He had no idea what he had just awakened. Danny sat on the medical bed, holding an ice pack to his swollen lip. The door opened, and an old man walked in. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Bill Reeves crossed the room in 3 quick steps and wrapped his arms around his grandson. Grandpa, Danny's voice cracked slightly. You didn't have to come all this way. Yes, I did. Bill pulled back and examined Danny's face with gentle fingers. The split lip, the bruise forming on his cheek. His jaw tightened. Does it hurt? Danny shrugged in the way teenagers do when they want to seem tough. I've had worse in practice. This wasn't practice. This was cruelty. Bill sat down on the bed beside his grandson. Tell me what happened. Danny explained. The sparring session. His struggles with the blocking technique. Vaughn's growing frustration. The strike that came without warning. Bill listened without interrupting. When Danny finished, he nodded slowly. You did nothing wrong. You know that, right? I was too slow. Maybe if I had, no. Bill's voice was firm but kind. A teacher who hits a student has failed as a teacher. That failure belongs to him, not you. The door opened again. Colonel Sandra Reeves rushed in, still wearing her diplomatic uniform. Her eyes found her son first, relief flooding her face. Then she saw her father. Dad, you came. Of course I came. Sandra hugged Danny tightly, then turned to Bill. Her expression shifted from relief to worry. Dad, you shouldn't be here. You know what could happen. I know exactly what could happen. The Dominari are not my concern right now. My grandson is. Sandra pulled Bill aside, lowering her voice. I just received a report. 3 Dominari vessels have changed course. They're heading toward this station. That can't be coincidence. Bill's face remained calm. No, it's not. Dad, your file was unsealed the moment you left Earth. Every Dominari who lost family in the Harvest War knows you're here. They've been waiting 40 years for this chance. Let them come. This isn't a joke. You're 73 years old. You're not the man who... Careful. Bill's voice dropped. Something flickered in his eyes. Something old and dangerous. Don't make the mistake of thinking age has made me soft. I've just been choosing peace. There's a difference. Sandra stared at her father. She remembered him from her childhood. The way other soldiers looked at him. The way enemies learned to fear even his name. She had hoped that man was gone forever. She could see now that he had only been sleeping. What are you going to do? She asked. First, I'm going to make sure my grandson is safe. Then I'm going to have a conversation with the people running this station. After that, he smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. We'll see. At that moment, Commandant Threx received a priority communication in his office. The Dominari were not just coming. They were demanding. The message was clear. Surrender William Reeves for war crimes against the Dominari people. Refuse, and face the consequences. Threx called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. The situation was impossible. Surrendering a human citizen, especially one with Bill's record, would end any relationship with the human alliance. But refusing the Dominari could mean armed conflict. How long until their ships arrive? He asked. 6 hours. They're coming at maximum speed. And human reinforcements? 18 hours. At best. Threx felt the trap closing around him. 12 hours where the station would be defenseless. 12 hours where the Dominari could do whatever they wanted. One of his aides spoke carefully. Perhaps we should consider the Dominari request. The human is old. His crimes were real. Maybe justice would. Justice. Bill's voice came from the doorway. He had arrived without anyone noticing. You want to talk about justice? The room went silent. Bill walked in slowly, his limp more visible now. He looked tired. He looked old, but his eyes were fully awake. Let me tell you about Dominari Justice. 40 years ago, they invaded human colony worlds. They rounded up civilians. Men, women, children. They put them in camps and treated them like animals to be harvested. His voice stayed level, almost conversational. I walked into those camps. I saw what they did. I carry those memories every single day of my life. He stopped in front of Threx. Now those same Dominari want you to hand me over. They call what I did war crimes. But what they did was slavery, torture, murder, and they were never punished. Not once. He leaned closer. So tell me, Commandant, what does justice look like to you? Threx had no answer. Bill straightened. I'm not asking you to protect me. I'm asking you to give me 6 hours. Your academy trains warriors. Let me show them what humans can do when they fight for something that matters. You want to fight the Dominari? With cadets. I want to teach them. One last time. Bill's smile returned. Softer now. And if the Dominari want to interrupt that lesson, they're welcome to try. Threx looked at the old human. At the legend standing in his office. At the man who had broken an empire and then walked away to grow wheat. What do you need? He asked. 200 cadets stood in the main training hall. They represented 12 different species. Krellians with their armored scales. Velthari with their insectoid speed. Marsani with their 4 arms. And 37 humans, including Danny Reeves. Before them stood an old man in civilian clothes. My name is Bill Reeves, he said. His voice carried easily across the silent hall. Some of you may know that name. Most of you probably don't. That's fine. I'm not here to talk about history. He began walking among the cadets, looking at each face. In 6 hours, Dominari warships will arrive at this station. They want to take me. They believe an old man alone, far from home, will be easy prey. He stopped and smiled. They've made this mistake before. A Krellian cadet raised his hand. Sir, with respect, what can we do? We're students. They have warships. Good question. Bill nodded. You're right. We can't defeat their fleet. We can't stop them from boarding this station. We don't need to. He walked to a display screen and activated it. The station's layout appeared. Human reinforcements are 18 hours away. That means we need to hold for 12 hours after the Dominari arrive. 12 hours of delay. 12 hours of resistance. 12 hours of making them fight for every corridor. A Velthari cadet clicked her mandibles nervously. They'll kill us. Maybe. Probably some of us. Bill's honesty was brutal. But here's what I've learned in 40 years of war. The Dominari fight for pride. They fight for revenge. They fight for dominance. These are powerful motivations, but they have weaknesses. He looked across the assembled cadets. You know what doesn't have weaknesses? Fighting for the person standing next to you. Fighting because your friends will die if you fail. Fighting because surrender means losing everything that matters. He paused. That's what humans discovered during the Harvest War. And today, I'm going to teach you. For the next 4 hours, Bill trained them. Not in combat techniques. They already knew those. He trained them in something else. Teamwork. Trust. The understanding that a Krellian strength combined with a Velthari speed combined with a human's adaptability created something greater than any individual. He divided them into units. Mixed species in each one. Forced them to communicate. To depend on each other. To see allies instead of strangers. Danny watched his grandfather transform from a tired old man into something else entirely. Bill moved among the cadets with purpose, correcting stances, encouraging the fearful, challenging the overconfident. His limp seemed to disappear when he demonstrated techniques. Grandpa, Danny said during a break. You've changed. Bill looked at his grandson. For a moment, his eyes were distant. No, I've just remembered who I used to be. He put a hand on Danny's shoulder. I wish you didn't have to see this. I want to fight with them. Absolutely not. You're staying in the protected areas with the other, Grandpa. Danny's voice was firm. You taught me that family protects each other. You came across the galaxy for me. You think I'm going to hide while you face them alone? Bill stared at his grandson. He saw himself at that age. Stubborn, brave, foolish, wonderful. You stay with your unit. You follow orders. You don't try to be a hero. Danny nodded. I'll be whatever I need to be. Bill hugged him tightly. He remembered when this boy was small enough to carry on his shoulders. Now Danny stood almost as tall as him. Time moved too quickly. It always did before battle. An alert sounded through the station. Commandant Threx's voice followed. All personnel. Dominari vessels have arrived ahead of schedule. They are launching boarding craft. All defensive units to positions. Bill gathered his cadets one final time. Remember what I taught you. You're not trying to win. You're trying to survive. Every minute you hold is a minute closer to rescue. Every corridor you defend is a victory. He looked at their faces. Young, scared, determined. I've seen professional soldiers with less courage than you're showing right now. Whatever happens today, remember that. The first explosions shook the station as Dominari breaching pods struck the hull. Bill picked up a training weapon. It wasn't much. None of their equipment was military grade. But weapons were only tools. The real weapon was will. One more thing, he said as the sounds of battle grew closer. Humans have a reputation in this galaxy. They call us deathworlders. They say we come from a planet that tried to kill us every day. He smiled. Today, we show them why we survive. The doors burst open. Dominari soldiers poured through, armored and armed and hungry for blood. Bill Reeves raised his weapon. Let's remind them why they fear us. The first wave of Dominari expected easy prey. They found something else entirely. Bill's cadets fought like demons. They used the station's corridors as choke points. They ambushed from maintenance shafts. They retreated and regrouped and struck again. Every lesson Bill had taught them in those few hours came alive. The Krellians held the front lines with their natural armor. The Velthari darted through gaps, striking and disappearing. The Marsani used their forearms to reload and fight simultaneously. And the humans did what humans always did. They adapted. Bill moved between units, directing, encouraging, sometimes fighting alongside them. His body ached. His old wounds screamed with every movement. But he had promised these cadets 12 hours, and he would give them 12 hours. 3 hours into the battle, the Dominari commander realized his mistake. This was not a soft target. This was a trap. Send more troops, he ordered from his flagship. Find the human called Reeves. Kill him, and the others will break. More boarding craft launched. More soldiers poured into the station. The defenders began to tire. Danny's unit held a critical junction near the medical wing. His team included 2 Krellians, 3 Velthari, a Marsani, and 5 other humans. They had already repelled 3 assaults. They keep coming. One of the Krellians growled. We can't hold forever. Danny checked his weapons charge. Nearly empty. We don't need forever. We just need long enough. A massive explosion shook the corridor. When the smoke cleared, Dominari soldiers were rushing through a new breach in the wall. Too many to stop. Fall back, Danny shouted. Defensive positions. His unit retreated in order, covering each other. But the Dominari were faster this time. They had brought heavy weapons. A blast caught the Marsani cadet in the chest. She fell without a sound. Danny felt rage surge through him. He raised his weapon and charged forward, screaming. It was stupid. It was suicidal. It was exactly what his grandfather had told him not to do. The Dominari soldier turned toward him, weapon rising. Then Bill Reeves appeared from a side corridor and slammed into the soldier with the force of a man half his age. They went down together, struggling. Bill's training weapon cracked against the Dominari's helmet once, twice, 3 times. The soldier stopped moving. Bill stood, breathing hard. Blood ran from a wound on his forehead. He looked at Danny with a mixture of anger and pride. I told you not to be a hero. You're one to talk. More Dominari were coming. Bill pulled Danny behind cover. Listen to me. Your unit needs a leader. That means staying alive, not throwing your life away in a charge. I watched them kill. I know. I've watched thousands die. It never gets easier. Bill gripped Danny's shoulders. But you honor the fallen by surviving. By winning. Not by joining them. Danny nodded slowly. His hands were shaking. His first real combat. His first real death. Everything felt too bright, too loud. Grandpa, I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can. You're a Reeves. Bill smiled through the blood on his face. Now get back to your unit. I'll draw them away. What? No. You're hurt. I've been hurt worse. Bill was already moving toward the Dominari advance. 12 hours, Danny. We just need 12 hours. Don't let me down. He disappeared around a corner. Seconds later, Danny heard weapons fire. Shouts. The Dominari had found a new target, his grandfather. Alone. Wounded. Fighting to give them time. Danny gathered his remaining unit members. New plan. We're not just defending anymore. We're hunting. Sir, a Velthari cadet asked. My grandfather is buying us time. We're going to make it count. Danny pointed to the station map on his display. The Dominari are spreading out to find him. That means their lines are thin. We hit them where they don't expect. We make them afraid. The cadets looked at each other. Something had changed in Danny's eyes. Something that reminded them of the old man who had trained them. What are we waiting for? The Krellian growled. Let's go hunting. They moved through the station like ghosts. Striking. Vanishing. The Dominari began reporting attacks from impossible directions. Their confident advance slowed. Meanwhile, Bill Reeves led a bloody trail through the station's lower levels. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was announcing himself. Looking for me, he called out to each Dominari patrol he encountered. Here I am. Come and get me. They came. Many of them. And not all of them walked away. The old man was bleeding from a dozen wounds now. His vision blurred. His legs felt like stone, but he kept moving. One more minute. One more corridor. One more fight. Because somewhere on this station, his grandson was counting on him. And William Reeves had never let his family down. Not once. Not ever. 10 hours into the battle, Bill Reeves finally fell. The Dominari had cornered him in a cargo bay. 20 soldiers surrounded him. He had taken down 6 before a blast caught him in the side and sent him crashing to the floor. The Dominari commander approached, his scaled face twisted with triumph. The Butcher of 7 Moons. Finally, do you know how long my people have waited for this moment? Bill coughed blood. His weapon was gone. His body was broken, but he managed to smile. Long enough to forget what happens when you corner a human. Explosions rocked the cargo bay doors. Danny's unit burst through, weapons blazing. Behind them came 3 more cadet units who had fought their way across the station. The Dominari soldiers turned to face this new threat. In that moment of distraction, Bill grabbed the commander's ankle and pulled. The commander fell hard, and Bill's hands found his throat. You touched my family, Bill whispered. Remember that. And whatever comes next. Remember why. The cargo bay became chaos. Cadets fighting soldiers. Training weapons against military gear. It should have been a massacre, but humans had taught these cadets something the Dominari didn't understand. How to fight when winning was impossible. How to protect each other when death was certain. How to face fear and refuse to surrender. Danny reached his grandfather and dragged him behind cover. Bill's face was gray. Blood soaked his clothes. Grandpa, stay with me. Help is coming. Did I give you enough time? You gave us everything. Just hold on. The station's communication system crackled. A new voice filled the air. Attention Dominari vessels. This is Admiral Chun of the Human Alliance Third Fleet. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. Through the cargo bay windows, they could see new ships arriving. Human warships. Dozens of them. The Third Fleet had arrived 4 hours early. Bill's call to Admiral Chun had done more than request transport. It had put the entire fleet on alert. The Dominari commander, still struggling in Bill's weakened grip, stopped fighting. His eyes went to the windows, to the ships, to the impossible sight of a human fleet that should have been hours away. You planned this, he gasped. I hoped. Bill released him and lay back, exhausted. Hoping is different. The Dominari withdrew, not by choice, but because they had no other option. Their boarding parties retreated to their ships. Their vessels turned away from the station and fled into deep space. The battle was over. In the medical bay, doctors worked frantically to save Bill Reeves. He had lost too much blood, suffered too much damage. By any reasonable measure, he should have been dead hours ago, but reasonable measures had never applied to the Butcher of 7 Moons. Danny waited outside the surgery room. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand. He's going to make it, Sanders said. He's too stubborn to die. He saved us. All of us. He didn't have to come. He could have stayed safe on Earth. Sandra smiled sadly. That's not who your grandfather is. It never was. She squeezed Danny's hand. When I was your age, I asked him why he fought in the war. You know what he said? He said he fought because behind him were children who would die if he failed. He never fought for glory or revenge. Only protection. The surgery door opened. A doctor emerged, looking exhausted but relieved. He's stable. It will take months to recover, but he'll live. Danny finally let himself cry. 6 months later, Danny Reeves stood on the academy graduation stage. His uniform was crisp, His bearing was proud. Around him stood his fellow cadets, survivors of a battle that had changed them all. The graduation speaker walked slowly to the podium. Bill Reeves still used a cane. He probably always would. But his eyes were clear, and his voice was strong. When I was asked to speak today, I didn't know what to say. I've made a lot of speeches in my life. Most of them were about war, about sacrifice, about the cost of freedom. He paused, looking across the assembled cadets. But you don't need to hear about costs. You already paid them. He gripped the podium with both hands. Humans are called deathworlders because we come from a planet that tried to kill us every day. But what made us survive wasn't strength or speed or claws. It was each other. We learned to protect our families, to defend our friends, to stand together when standing alone meant death. His eyes found Danny in the crowd. That's what you showed on Station Meridian. Not human victory, not Krellian strength, not Velthari speed. All of you, together, showing the galaxy what happens when different peoples fight as one. He smiled. That's the lesson I hope you carry forward. True strength isn't about how much damage you can cause. It's about how much you're willing to sacrifice for those who matter. After the ceremony, Bill and Danny stood on the academy balcony, looking at the stars. I'm proud of you, Bill said quietly. I learned from the best. You learned from a violent old man with too many nightmares. Bill shook his head. Don't become me, Danny. Be better. Danny thought about that. About his grandfather's past. About the choices that had made him both a legend and a monster. I want to protect people, he finally said. Like you did. But maybe without so much blood. Bill laughed. It was a good sound. A sound Sandra said she hadn't heard in years. That sounds about right. He put his arm around his grandson. That sounds about perfect. Behind them, the stars burned with countless possibilities. A galaxy where humans were feared and respected. Where an old man's past could still reach across decades to cause trouble. Where a simple act of cruelty had awakened something that should have stayed buried. But also a galaxy where family still meant everything. Where grandfathers still crossed the universe for grandchildren. Where love was stronger than hatred. And where the lesson of Station Meridian would be remembered for generations. Never touch a human's family, because they will come for you, every single time.